In this video, we upgrade this old 80s radio to a new 2021 radio. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the radio unit. I picked it up for 10 bucks. Here's the handle, here's the twisty thing, letters, numbers, FM, AM, radio, more numbers, outlets, more outlets, twisty thing again. This thing's pretty cool. It has a tape deck, which the guy told me that did not work, but as you can see here, it does. So that was a lie. More dials. First thing we gotta do is obviously open it up. There's a lot of screws on this thing, like a lot. I don't know why. Which is gonna reveal the 80s technology. Pretty cool. A reference point. This is the old stuff. This is the new chip that I'm gonna be installing. This is gonna be easy. This is the old speaker, 3 watts, going to be swapped out to a 50 watt RMS speaker, which is going to sound loud. Take these screws out, snip out the tweeter. These are the old batteries, which is going to be replaced by this new 12 volt battery, which is used to start up motorcycles. It's going to be pretty cool. So again, this is going to be the chip that we're going to be using. It's going to be connected to this 50 watt speaker that I just showed you. This is the inlet for the charging station. This is the USB charging port for my phone, and this little thing here is a gauge to indicate the battery percentage, and obviously we don't want that on all the time, so I'm going to be installing to this momentary switch, and 12 volt system, 12 volt switch with this little cool cover on. First thing we gotta do is wash it, because I'm pretty sure this thing hasn't been washed since 1982. Second thing we gotta do is obviously take out all the old, monstrous, very outdated technology. Still pretty good parts on there, so I'm going to save a bunch of them. And then once we got that going, we're going to take out the battery clips, because obviously we're not going to be using the stock batteries. Once that thing is dried, the front end, we're going to hot glue the little template, whatever you want to call it, to the front. Obviously hot glue isn't going to stick because I'm going to be using this pretty much in the summertime. It's going to be in direct sun, so that's not going to be any good. So I'm going to be using epoxy later on. And check this out. Fits. It's like magic. It's crazy what happens when you actually measure stuff before you start the project. And check out this headband. It's pretty lame. Just joking. Anyways, we got to install this little indicator gauge, and it fits perfectly where the AM FM radio is. It's perfect. We just got to use a step drill to put it in. Once that's in, we just do in the USB thing. That fits perfect too. Then once that's done, we got to put it in the chip. We're going to be placing it where the cassette switches were at once. You just got to do a little cutty, hot glue that thing in. Later on, we'll be using epoxy on pretty much everything. Charging port to the side. Then we got to do the hard part, and it begins with these 2 little brackets for the positive and negative terminals. This will make everything seamlessly easy to install, as well as a fuse integrated with the power cables. First thing that I'm going to be doing on the hard part is actually just solder the positive to positive, negative to negative terminals to the outlet to the speaker. Once we got that going on, we just got to crimp and install. And this is the part, or one example, why it's going to be easy to use those little terminals instead of soldering everything together. It makes it way more easier, way more safer. And then after this, we're going to do a quick check, make sure it turns on, nothing blows up, nothing burns, we're good. Move on to the next step, which is installing the actual indicator gauge, which is pretty much easy. Just positive to positive, negative to negative terminals on those 2 little brackets that I installed. Same thing with the USB gauge. Once we got that, we got to test it. Works perfectly. Now next thing is the USB hub. I actually ran out of terminals on this, so instead of going out and buying some like a lazy fool that I am, I just solder them. Obviously you've got to test that out before we continue on. I'm going to actually be using a spare phone that I have. Turn on the switch, and bada bing bada boom, we're good. Next is actually placing the battery where I want it, and this is easier said than done. So I just pretty much put the battery where I want it, put the cover on, kind of eyeball where I need it cut. And in this part, I sharpied where I got to cut, and I would love to say that I successfully did what I needed to do in the first cut and whatever is in this clips, but sadly no. I had to do it over and over again until everything fit perfectly. Then I got to organize the cables with zip ties, as you can see, and then after this I'm going to use my little Ziploc epoxy trick that I use in order to make a clean epoxy install. Pretty much just mix it at the corner, cut the tip off, and then just use it like a little pastry bag that they use to decorate cakes with. And they weren't joking when this thing is quick setting, because within 5 minutes this thing started to cure, and as you can see, it hit 170 degrees. That's crazy. And once that's done, we solder in the charging port cables to the battery cables. Heat shrink, not only heat shrink, but put electrical tape over it. Zip tie the electrical tape because, as we all know, electrical tape does not adhere as well. Then we got to use this liquid E-tape to cover pretty much every terminal that's active when the circuit is on. This minimizes the risk of shock, minimizes the risk of pretty much everything bad that is involved with electricity, short circuits mostly. It protects all my stuff, and I'm not worried about a fire. As you can see, it looks like tar, and this stuff is awesome. So once we got that, we're pretty much done. Got to put the battery back in, put the screws back in. We're not completely done though, because now comes the fun part, making templates and covering the ugly stuff up, pretty much like the front of the cassette and where the switches are, or I mean the dials are. As you can see, there's a massive hole. We can fix that with the 3D printer, doing a couple of measurements to make a little template. 3D print that part out and pretty much just make sure that it fits perfectly, and obviously it came out perfect the first time. Definitely didn't have to do it 2 times. And as you can see, it sticks out like a sore thumb when it's blue like this, so I gotta spray paint it a little bit, same color, gray. Came out pretty much spot on, you know, because I'm an awesome engineer. And super glue it. And after that's done, I'm going to print out this little image of a cassette because I couldn't fit an actual cassette in there, which is what I originally wanted. Luckily, this radio has like a little acrylic plate, I guess you could call it, that just screwed on by 2 screws. Makes it way more easy to swap it out if I ever want to change the name of this thing. And then after this, all we got to do is test it out. So there you guys have it. The radio is complete, and as you can tell from the testing, it sounds amazing. Even from 30 feet from where I was recording, from where the radio was, it sounds crystal clear and loud, and it wasn't even at 50% volume, which is just astonishing. If anybody out there wants to make a similar project to this, I'm going to go ahead and leave a link of all the parts that I used for this project down in the link below. And the cool thing about the amplifier chip, whatever you want to call it, the actual part that connects the Bluetooth to your phone, it actually has 2 outlets, left and right. Obviously I only have 1 speaker, so I put it on the right and switched the settings to mono, so the signal that would have sent out to left and right just converges into one. But if you find a radio that has a dual speaker setup, you could use the same chip. You just have to obviously buy another speaker. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next one. Peace out.